Hi guys, so far we have covered all the selection statements and while and do while loop from looping statements. Today we are going to cover for loop. A for loop is usually used to execute a set of statements fixed number of times. There are two for loops available in Java, regular for loop and enhanced for loop or for each loop. This is available JDK 5 onwards. I will cover regular for loop in this section and enhanced for loop will be covered in next section with arrays. Regular for loop has the following syntax: keyword for, opening round bracket, initialization expression, semicolon, boolean expression, semicolon, step expression, closing round bracket, opening curly bracket, single statement or multiple statements, and finally closing curly bracket. Or as seen with other control statements, if there is only one statement to be executed inside loop, then you may omit curly brackets. But it is not a recommended practice. Initialization expression represents either initialization and declaration such as int ctr equals to 0 or only initialization such as I equals to 1. Boolean expression is same as what we had seen with if, while and do while. And step expression can take any Java statement, but it usually increments or decrements loop counter variable, such as ctr++ or I-. Let's see how Java Runtime handles the for loop. Java Runtime first executes the initialization expression. This step happens only once. Then control goes to check the Boolean expression. If Boolean expression is false, it moves the control out of the for loop. For loop ends. But if Boolean expression is true, control goes inside the for loop and starts executing all the statements from top to bottom. After executing the last statement, control executes the step expression. This usually increments or decrements loop counter variable. After that, Boolean expression is checked again. If Boolean expression results in true, the loop executes one more time, but if it results in false, the for loop ends. Step expression and Boolean expression run with each iteration, whereas declaration and initialization happens only once. Enough of the theory, let's jump to type first for loop example. In this example, this while loop prints hello 5 times onto the console. To verify, run this program and it correctly prints hello 5 times. Let us convert this while loop into for loop. To rule out any possibility of confusion, comment the while loop so that we can use the exact same variable names. Select the block, press Ctrl+Shift/, save it. Now let's start typing for loop. Type for, opening round bracket, Eclipse IDE provides closing round bracket. First we provide initialization expression, copy and paste it, add semicolon, space, then we provide Boolean expression. This is the Boolean expression in while loop, copy and paste it as well, end it with semicolon, space, and finally provide the step expression. No semicolon at the end of step expression. Type opening curly bracket, press enter, Eclipse IDE provides closing curly bracket. Now copy and paste the system.out.println statement to execute inside for loop. Save it, run it, and it prints hello 5 times. Let's see how for loop executes at runtime. To make it simple, let's print hello twice. Change the Boolean condition to ctr is less than 2. Save it, run it. It correctly prints hello twice. First time when Java Runtime encounters a for loop, it executes declaration and initialization expression. Over here, ctr variable is created and initialized to 0. So in first step, it is creating a ctr variable and initializing it to 0. Then control checks the Boolean condition, which is ctr is less than 2. ctr is 0 over here, so the condition is 0 less than 2. This is true. Control enters the for loop and executes this statement. It prints hello to the console. After executing this statement, control goes to step expression and increment the value of CTR by 1. So CTR becomes 1. This is second iteration. Boolean expression is checked again. In this case, value of CTR is 1. So Boolean expression is 1 less than 2. This is true. Control enters for loop and hello gets printed onto the console. Step expression is executed again. It increments the CTR variable's value by 1. CTR becomes 2 now. This is third iteration. Java runtime checks the Boolean expression again. This time Boolean expression is 2 less than 2, which is false. Control goes out of the for loop. The main method ends and the program terminates after printing hello twice. This first expression can be declaration and initialization or declaration only. We have already seen declaration and initialization in this example. Let us check declaration only. Copy and paste the same code. Change the CTR variable name to I to avoid any confusion. Remove the declaration from here and move it outside for loop. Let us separate output of these two loops. Sysout, control space, then multiple dashes. Save it, run the program. Both the loops print hello twice. So what's the difference between these two loops? The difference is in accessibility of variable CTR and variable I. Over here, CTR variable is accessible within for block body, which is within these curly brackets. I can't access variable CTR outside for loop. Let me try. Sysout, control space, CTR. Some compilation error is there. Error is CTR cannot be resolved to a variable, which means CTR is not accessible at this line. Comment it. Let me try to access I. Sysout, I. Save it. No error in this case. I is accessible outside for loop as it was declared or created outside for loop. Run this program. The second loop prints hello twice followed by value of I. If the requirement is to get the information on number of times the loop was executed, then you can declare the variable outside. But if there is no such requirement, then declare and initialize it within for loop. All three initialization expression, Boolean expression and step expression are optional. Let's write another class to test it. Right click on the default package, new class, type for example2, select the public static void main checkbox, click on finish button, delete the to do statement. Now let's type for, keyword for, opening round bracket, provide 2 semicolon, opening curly bracket, press enter, write a statement inside for loop, sysout, control space, and welcome within double quotes. No error, this is a valid syntax, and as no Boolean condition is there, hence this is an infinite loop. Save it, run it. The program runs in an infinite loop. To terminate this program, click here. This infinite loop is similar to if you provide literal true in Boolean expression. Save it, run it, and program executes in infinite loop. Terminate the program. What will happen if you write a statement after this loop? Let's try. Sysout, control space, 1. There is some error. Do you remember this error? Unreachable code. Over here, literal true is compile time constant. Hence compiler knows that once control enters the loop, it will not come out of the loop. Hence it gives unreachable code error for the statements outside this loop. What about Boolean literal false? This time, code inside the for loop is unreachable. False is compile time constant. Compiler knows that the statements we write inside the for loop will never execute. Hence it gives unreachable code error. When you attempt quiz questions, pay attention to the questions that check on unreachable code error. As I mentioned earlier, any Java statement is allowed in step expression. Let us play with step expression and see some cool examples. This example prints value of I to the console. Note we are using I equals to I plus 1 in step expression. Run it to verify, and Java runtime executes this statement twice. Let me copy and paste this logic. Separate the output, sysout, multiple dashed line within double quotes, save it. If I ask you to delete this step expression and make changes inside for loop so that it still produces the same output, will you be able to do it? Can you take this as a challenge? Pause this video over here and resume once you are ready with your solution. I hope you were able to solve this challenge. Let me try. Over here, if I check the sequence of print and increment, I is printed first and then control goes and increment the value of I by 1. Now which operator allows you to use the value of variable first and increment the value after that? It is post increment operator only. Let me delete this step expression. Use the post increment operator here. Save the file. Run it, and we got the same output. Let me copy and paste this version. Would you like to try an interesting exercise? I promise this is going to be the last one for this lecture. Let me delete this statement. Save the file. Now you are not allowed to write even a single statement inside loop body, which is within curly brackets. But you may make changes within round brackets. Can you add some code within round bracket so that we get the same output? Pause this video here, come back after you solve it. Those who were able to solve it, pat yourself on the back, and those who are still struggling, don't lose hope. Trying is the most important thing if you are learning something new. I will give you ample challenges in future lectures to try out and succeed. Let us come back to this problem. As I told you earlier in this lecture, any statement is allowed in step expression. So let me copy and paste this system.out.println statement without semicolon. Save it. No compilation error here. Run it. And we get the same output. With this, we have come to an end. In next lecture, I will give you some programming questions to solve using for loop. Do try all the questions there. My original plan was to cover the branching statements, but before that I would like to cover two small topics, nested controls and labeled statements. Branching statements become interesting if we use them with labels and nested controls. Bye for now, and I will see you in the next lecture.